So my name is Stephen Chin. I'm here with Luke Daley at the Devox conference.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to do a little bit of hacking on some of his projects. So Ratpack, Jeb, Gradle, kind of all involved. So you're working for Gradleware now, right?
Yeah. So I've been with Gradleware for about 3 years now. So sort of day-to-day, just working on Gradle, cutting code on that, putting releases out, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool company to work for. And we're still growing, and it's good to be... I like being the kind of underdog in that space, right? There's a well-entrenched leader, and you're trying to sort of come up from behind. So it's cool. It's a good company.
Yeah, no, my favorite thing to do when I'm showing people some of the projects I hack on is I'll point out that most of my builds now are Gradle based because I hate Maven so much.
Yeah, right. There's a bit of that out there. Yeah, it's really cool when you see a talk about some technology that I may not necessarily be involved with, and they're presenting. You see a Gradle build in there. I went to a talk last week at a conference in Sweden, and the guy was talking about big data. As it was libraries I'd never heard of, but at the middle of it was a Gradle build, and that's really cool. You didn't really see that so much a year ago, but you see more of it now, which is cool.
Cool. So we're live at the Devox conference here. If you're watching this live, join the chat so you can ask questions, and then we'll answer them as they come along. Or if you're sitting in one of the session rooms upstairs, you could always hop out of that boring talk and come down here instead. But so tell me a little bit what things you're doing at Devox here before we get started with hacking.
Yeah, sure. So I've got a session this afternoon. It's 4:40, I believe, talking about Jeb, which is an open source project that I created a few years ago. It's a functional testing tool. I mean, it's basically a Groovy DSL on top of Selenium, is the whole gist of it. So I'll be co-presenting that with Peter Niederwieser, of Spock Framework fame. So he's also another Gradleware guy. I've been working with Peter for years. Cool. I came across Spock. If anybody out there, if you're into testing tools and you haven't come across the Spock framework, I know you talk about it a lot. So I guess if somebody's on this stream, they've probably come across it. So, but that's a great tool, and I met Peter through that, and then really created Jeb to try and have a functional testing tool that was as nice or fit as nicely in that kind of space. So we'll be co-presenting. He's worked with me on Jeb a little bit, so he'll be doing some Spock bits, I'll be doing some Jeb bits. And, yeah. Yeah,
no, I mean, getting good testing tools is really important. And I think something a lot of people don't get as Java developers is the Groovy build and test systems are not just for Groovy developers. So
yeah, that's a huge point. So, and I'm seeing more and more of that now as well. Sort of going into places and helping them with the build infrastructure, bringing Gradle in, and seeing Groovy used quite a bit just in the testing layer. So a complete Java stack. Groovy is not in the application runtime at all. They're testing with Groovy, and people who aren't doing that, they're crazy, yeah. Right? It's such a more productive experience.
I use Gradle for my Scala programs too.
Cool. Well, that's cool. Yeah.
All right, so now we're showing your desktop.
Yeah, so this is a different project. So I'll just flick back to this one. This is Jeb. This is the Jeb homepage right there. So that's, I mean, it's been around about 4 years or so now. It's pretty stable. It's still not 1.0, but that's really my laziness, not really anything about the code base. But it's been used by quite a lot of people, and I know there are some high-profile sites using it here and there. So it's really stable. Doesn't sort of too much work going on it anymore. It's more or less feature complete and kind of thing. So this is kind of what. There's a bit of an example of the code here. This is not a test, but you can kind of Jeb itself is just an automation layer, but then you can integrate it with something like Spark, JUnit, Cucumber, whatever you want, to actually do the test execution side of things. So that's that. It's jebish.org. Yeah, I guess if you're interested in that side of things, man, check out the talks being. The videos get presented at the talks, right? Yeah.
So Stefan mentioned the keynote this morning. So for the folks online who think this is unfair that we're talking about things which they can't actually see now, Stefan's going to put all the videos on parlays before the holidays. So it'll be a nice Christmas gift or something, and they'll all be free, which is really cool.
That is nice.
So check out the videos on parlays, and also I started putting on night hacking videos on the Night Hacking Parlays channel too. So if you're watching this on the Parlays channel, you're like halfway there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so that's Jeb, and like I said, I'm talking this afternoon. But this is the thing I've been working on lately, and it's called Ratpack, and it started out. I didn't create the project. It's been around for a few years, but I took it over about a year ago. It started out as literally a groovy version of Ruby Sinatra. That was the kind of brief, to have those kind of script-based apps and very nice and simple. Not too much weight, just get me to the HTTP very quickly, kind of thing. So that's how it started, and I got a bunch of guys were working on that a few years ago. They stopped working on it, and it was taken over by a good friend of mine, Tim Berglund. He's one of the NFJS speakers, gets around quite a bit. Now he's a GitHubber, actually. And he came to me and he sort of asked for my opinion on it and had to have a look at it. And the reason I was interested at the time is that I was doing Jeb presentations and I needed some kind of lightweight framework to create little apps that I could, demo to test, kind of thing. So just something very small, started quick, very nimble, that kind of thing. So that's why I was interested initially. But then I got into it and I thought, this is interesting. And one of the things about it is that it's fully non-blocking, it's fully asynchronous, like the Node.js model. And I was just curious about how that plays out when you're trying to kind of build a nice user-level API. So I took it over and have been trying to over the last year, turn it into a real project with documentation and all that stuff. Because that's the other thing. I kind of, being an automation guy working on Gradle and Gradleware, I'm kind of into that side of things. How can you set up the infrastructure around a project and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, it looks like you even have some design skills because your websites don't suck.
That's not me. I don't have design skills. That's a guy called Rob Fletcher, who's also one of the committers, who does actually have design skills, yeah. That's all, modern CSS3 responsive design stuff. It works well on mobile as well if you need to visit ratpack.io on your mobile device. But yeah, I can't do that stuff at all. So, all
right, so yeah, maybe show a good example of some of the Ratpack stuff.
So, it is, a lot of the example code you'll see out there is Groovy, but it doesn't have to be. But I'll kind of start with the Groovy stuff and we'll see what it looks like to use in Java as well. So this is a complete Ratpack app. So you can use it just completely standalone. You just need to, this is using Grab, which is Groovy's built-in dependency resolution mechanism. It'll go and fetch this one jar and its dependencies from oss.jfrog.org. I push all my binaries to Bintray, which is the new service from the JFrog guys. So it's not final release yet, so it's not in Maven Central. You have to get it from this particular repository. So once you do that, you pull in this static import here, which gives you this guy, the Ratpack method. And then in the Groovy version, you use a DSL inside of here. So Ratpack handlers, and this lists my application handlers, which are really just functions that operate on a request and response. So one thing I should point out is it's not enterprise Java, like there's no servlets, there's no WAR files, anything of that. It's actually all built on top of Netty, so you don't use the traditional servlet API for this kind of thing. So basically what this app says is that get on slash, so no path, is just going to render a string to the screen. On slash date, we're going to render a Groovy template, and we serve assets out of the public directory, so which is here. So to start this guy up, if I have Groovy installed, let's just run Ratpack Groovy. I've already got another app running somewhere over here. Let's try that again. So that boots the app, and there's my thing on slash, which was just that string. I mean, it does all static file serving, not that exciting. The templates are one. Back to this guy. So one of the things, Groovy's not core, it's an add-on, and one of the things you get when you use it is the ability to have these templates, which are basically strings with embedded Groovy code, similar to GSPs if you're coming from Grails, that kind of thing. So you can have arbitrary Groovy expressions in here, and they get printed out. So, but it is an add-on. That's this Groovy template thing's coming from this static import up here. And one of the things is that it's fully reloadable. So if I change this guy, so the app's still running. I change wrong window, change this guy to be save it and go to the right URL. fully picked up. So that was the other thing that I was kind of intrigued about, as to how can I create a nice development environment with like reloading, all the things people expect now, without one that worked well with IDEs and didn't actually require any kind of too much special magic. So Ratpack kind of manages, when you're in development mode, that changes this file and reloading it, so I don't have to do restarts or anything like that. But I mean, this is cool for demos, like doing single script apps, and you can even use it for just like, I don't know, some back-end services, something like that, but you wouldn't really put it into production like this, and it's one script kind of thing. So when you get, naturally, there is some Gradle tooling. So if I use my build.gradle file for this guy, there's a Ratpack Gradle plugin, which this is just the Gradle code to pull that in. Some dependency repositories here, but I just apply Ratpack Groovy, and it turns my Gradle project into a project that produces an executable application and has some extra stuff in here to deal with Ratpack. But it's pretty light touch. Most of the extra stuff is to deal with the hot reloading and the IDEA integration. So basically I apply that, sets up my Ratpack dependencies that I need. It has a special IDEA support, which I'll go through in a sec, and some extra dependencies. Now, the reloading.
So how big is the Ratpack project overall? Like
in terms of code size?
Yeah, or just complexity. Like how many maintainers do you have on it?
Right. So it's mostly at the moment me doing most of the work. Because I mean, it's like pre 1.0. It's but there are a bunch of people out there using it. We've got a forum and people are sort of posting questions and things like that. And getting, I think there's about 6 or 7 people submitting pull requests at the moment, kind of thing. So it's gathering some steam. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, in my experience, the open source projects which survive are the ones which have basically one or a few small set of committers which are dedicated, rather than a large pool of people who just part-time it.
Yeah. I mean, one of my things with this project, though, as well, was to try and set up sustainable infrastructure, because my goal is, I've not been able to successfully do this to date, is to create a project, work on it for a while, step away, and that project continue. So, I mean, like things like Jeb, I've got another guy, Marcin, who works a lot on it, but it's still very much kind of my thing. But hopefully one day I want this to grow on and I'll move on to something else, kind of thing. So a lot of work's gone into the actual build infrastructure for Ratpack itself, and the documentation tooling and that kind of stuff. So setting up automatic testing of Javadoc snippets and things like that, so which I can show if we have time, and that kind of stuff. So getting that set up, so it's easy to contribute code and to keep things clean. Yeah, because other projects I've worked on, that's kind of been an issue. So over time, as the code base gets more complex, just the barrier to submitting code gets so high that if you don't have a history with the code base, you can't do it. So I'm trying to work out how to get into a situation where this is evolvable over time.
Well, it probably helps that you're building Agile and testing and all the tools which you need to do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I mean, Ratpack's got there's lots of testing infrastructure. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned before about testing tools. We have this running joke at Gradleware that, because pretty much everybody who works at Gradleware has invented some kind of testing tool. So I mean, I did Jeb, Peter did Spock, we have Stepan Faber who created Mockito, 2 of the guys who worked on the original version of Selenium on the project. So it's just that's the barrier to entry. But it kind of makes sense, because if it's a certain mind frame, if you're into testing tools and things that can make you really productive running tests, then you kind of, in my opinion anyway, you sort of get the quality aspect of it. So the better tests are, the quicker you can write them, the better quality your code is, right?
So since I worked on a behavior-driven development test framework for JavaFX, the original JavaFX script, does that put me in the club?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you looking for work?
No, but thanks for the offer.
Yeah.
All right. So let's show some more some more hacking code.
So so here's my build.gradle. I said most of the heavy lifting's done by this Ratpack Groovy. I get this new so Gradle, if you haven't used it, follows the same conventions for test source layout as Mavens have source main Java or source main Groovy in this case, and test. But I get this new Ratpack directory, and inside there I put my ratpack.groovy file, which is like kind of the heart of my application. So similar kind of thing. There's a few more interesting things going on in here. Now this app is actually a port of the Groovy Console. So there's an online Groovy Console you can use to run some Groovy code. So because I used the plugin and I generated my idea stuff with that plugin, I get inside my IDE a nice runner to run it. So this is something that the tooling creates for me. So I can go ahead and start the app right within the IDE. And I have another app using that port, which is from before. Let's kill that guy. So that's up. So now this is my app. And if you haven't used the Groovy Web Console before, it's like an online REPL, right? Kind of. So sends a AJAX request, executes a Groovy on the server, sends back. Yeah. So this is what it kind of looks like. So here's my get, my index, my template there. But here's the actual thing that executes that code. So this is a post handler on /execute. And you can see the dependency injection here. That's the other thing that the framework provides. So it's pretty much some like functional abstractions over HTTP and dependency injection via Juice. So the script executor guy, which goes and executes that script and returns. What does it return? Script result. Oh yeah. So that's another thing. So yeah. So the dependency injection is probably not a bad time to talk about that. It's all based on Juice. So we have this handlers block. And the modules block is where I can register all the things that I want to be services or whatever. So here's a Juice module, and I've just got the thing that executes my Groovy code factored out and into this script executor thing and binding it up with Juice. So my Juice module to say here's my script executor, and the result renderer is some Ratpack infrastructure. But my script executor just takes a string of Groovy scripts, returns a script result, straightforward stuff. The result renderer, this is something, if you bind one of these guys in with Juice, it gets picked up by the framework. So when now there's a request to render this guy, right? So, and then the framework says, well, who can do it? Finds this implementation, and it gets context, which is like the wrapper for the request response, and script result, which is the object that needs to be rendered. And then we're just doing some content negotiation here to then render that guy as JSON. So that's their render framework. It's all kind of plugin based.
So you ever consider kind of tossing a Groovy Console out there for people to hack on, just as a website?
As an example of Ratpack?
As a service, people could just like play around with Ratpack and the Groovy Console.
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting idea. So you'd start a server within a server. Yeah, I guess there's no reason you couldn't do it. Basically, so basically you have a page which is something like your Ratpack.groovy. That's an interesting idea. Where's my Ratpack.groovy? This guy. So like a Groovy Web Console where I have this guy, and then you hit another URL which is the actual running application.
Oh yeah, you can do that too.
That'd be cool. So you define the app within the app. At some point you hit turtles, I think. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's a cool idea. I mean, the Groovy Web Console like this, I ported this. Guillaume Laforge wrote this, and he's got it running on App Engine at the moment. So I was kind of just looking for an app I could port to Ratpack, and I found that and ported it from App Engine to Ratpack, and it was, I think, nicer.
Cool. Yeah, you sure places.
Yeah. So that's the Groovy side of things. But in Java.
So you mentioned testing of Javadoc. I'm curious about that.
So let's go to the Ratpack project itself. So that's what this guy is here. And I mean, one thing you can see immediately is it's pretty modular. That's another thing I've learned from working on projects over time, is that you have to modularize from the start and plug in architecture from the start. Trying to retrofit that stuff is always painful. So I went straight away, kind of went to factoring this stuff out, and these are all independently usable modules. So that's probably the only bit of wisdom I could give to anybody, is that if you start a project, modularize straight away, don't wait. So let's have a look at this bit of code here. So here's a spec that's testing a feature, and one of the characteristics of Ratpack, because it's non-blocking, right? Small number of threads. If you have to do a blocking operation, you have to get off the request thread somehow. So there's some inbuilt support for doing that. So if you need to use JDBC or some blocking API, you can do it. So inside a handler, I can just use this blocking thing do some kind of background operation here, and then get the result back on the request thread here. So it's a kind of promise-like, but it's not full-blown promises. But so it's kind of simple. So if we have a look at, oh geez, I hope this works, because I was just moving it around. So let's have a look at, we're blocking. Oh, it is here. Right. So one of the other things I wanted to do is that try and have as much useful information in the Javadoc as possible. So the Javadoc's actually really useful, and which means code snippets, which means they have to be tested, right? Because otherwise they get stale, and having wrong examples is worse than having no examples. So inside the Javadoc I have all these little code snippets, and the way that I test it is that for the pre-block I just have a certain class, which is, this ends up being that kind of fixture that I need. And then I wrote some stuff here. So there's already some stuff built into Groovy itself to do this, but I had to take it and modify it a little bit. So I have this code snippet test case which uses a custom JUnit runner to do this, and basically this is something I want to extract and kind of provide outside of Ratpack, because it's just, it's nothing really to do with Ratpack. So in your implementation of this, you have to implement this method, add tests, and you add to this guy a test code snippet. It's been a while, bear with me. What is that guy? So test code snippet. I've just got some Groovy dynamic stuff going on here. Anyway, so basically it ends up becoming, say that in my project, so here is the code that I want to test, the name of the class that it came from, the name of the test, and this all gets used to create a JUnit test dynamically. Some kind of setup, because in these snippets you need to kind of set up some code, do some stuff, and then some teardown, for example. And if you have all of that in your examples, it becomes a bit bloated. So in this case here, like I'm just demoing some of the actual kind of the handling DSL. I don't want to have the code in here to start the server and set all that stuff up. So I need a fixture for that stuff, and some other bits and pieces. But based on all that, basically all it's doing is going and just grepping through those files. It just searches through the Java files, using a whole bunch of regular expressions to find things that look like Javadoc, find things that are pre-class something, extract that stuff out. And because Groovy has a runtime compiler API, just construct a string of Groovy, which is a superset of Java, so you can do it for Java stuff as well and execute it. So let's make this guy fail. So this should be, let's run Javadoc code snippet tests. I think it's working.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the most important things about this sort of testing is I hate people who over-document their code, because it's very hard to maintain since you have no way of testing all of the comments, and you want it to be right rather than giving misleading. It's better to not have docs than have docs which are wrong.
Absolutely, it's so costly if you don't have wrong examples in there, because people rightly so copy paste it and think, why doesn't this work? It's it's in the docs, it should work.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not. I found it was actually a fun little project to work out how to test the Javadoc. Yeah, so I do have some kind of problem here. Why is my test? So you can see I've got some issue with my Javadoc because there's some refactorings I was doing this morning. See, this isn't even committed yet. So we're living on the edge. So there's also some munging going on in here, so that it actually gets the stack frame of what went wrong. Because basically what we're doing is taking this code, right? We're just grepping it out of this file, taking it, massaging it to get rid of the leading asterisks, getting it into a big string, putting a before and after block onto it, and throwing it at the Groovy compiler, and we get back an exception which is going to have a stack frame somewhere in here. So then what happens is, I wonder if we can find that being here. So Ratpack manual. If you're interested in looking more into this code, for anybody watching, it's in the Ratpack manual component of this project. Source test maybe.
What's that funky character there, the N47?
If I do this, closes the Javadoc comment. Someone want to have comments within comments, so that's the HTML.
Okay, got it.
And I think, actually, is that the problem? It is. That was incorrect. It needed the semicolon there. So now we run it. Well spotted, Steve. Yes. All right. Commit. That counts as hacking, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. But what I was going to show is that there's some like massaging going on to executor. Executor. This is something I haven't quite got right yet. But there's a when it gets the exception, takes the stack frames, looks at them and tries to rewrite them back with the right information to point at the right line in the file. So let's say I change this to be, I don't know, so that's going to be an integer. What's a method? Integer doesn't have foo. Doesn't have a foo method, right? So it should fail.
Yeah, no foo.
Does the stack frame? Yes. So it points me to the right line, which is also cool because I've been making a bunch of refactorings lately and been breaking all of these examples, and I just run this and I get to update them all. And the other thing here is that, I mean, you know, if anybody's really paying attention, let's say this is Groovy code, right? And we had a method that doesn't exist, and we called it, and we got a compile error. So this is actually using static Groovy to do it. Because if you're not using static Groovy, then it won't catch all the problems, right? So, and that's the other thing about Ratpack is that there's no dynamic stuff going on. It's all static API, so you can use full type checking and that kind of stuff. So even with these like the nice concise DSL, it's still fully statically compilable.
Cool. No, that's really nice. So I think that justifies you've done some real hacking on the stream. So we got to give you your night hacking sticker. Hold this for a sec.
Nice. You can never have too many stickers, yeah. Oh, actually, I've got a sticker for you. Do a sticker trade.
Yeah, so these are the little night hacking
Awesome.
logo stickers. So it's transparent, so like you can see like the Duke edges are transparent.
Oh, nice.
And it's made out of a nice plastic, so like later on if you change your mind it actually comes off without ruining your laptop.
Cool, man. Well, here is your Ratpack sticker.
Oh, Ratpack. That's a nice logo.
It is. I can't take any credit for it at all. Again, Rob Fletcher, thank you very much. So yeah, it's cool.
All right, cool. So thanks very much for making time
Cheers.
out of your busy schedule, and we'll have to make some time for night hacking later. So I mentioned this earlier to you, but I'm gonna start a regular TV show where every couple weeks I'll be doing some hacking and then pull people in over Skype, get some user groups involved to do live meetings at the same time. So
Sounds good. So you're thinking like just work, like trying to contribute a feature to a project or that kind of thing?
yeah, no. So we actually, the idea would be to get some maybe an open source project or something where we want to get people hacking on it.
Yeah, cool.
And at the beginning, we'd maybe open up a GitHub repo and set up some examples and stuff. And along the way, folks who are watching could actually like contribute stuff.
Nice. That'd be cool. It's like the distributed hacker garden.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the Devox conference.
Cheers, Steve. Thanks.